I'm here with Chris Powell. He's the treasurer of GATA. GATA.org is where you find out about gold manipulation. Chris, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Dan.
Chris, what do you say to people who just kind of blow off the whole manipulation story? I mean, the idea of that bankers and other people are colluding to actually manipulate this metal. Why would they do that?
Well, because the monetary metals are money. They compete with government currencies. They have a powerful influence on interest rates and the price of government bonds. And central banks have been rigging gold prices for years. It's a matter of public record. It used to be done much more publicly than it is now, but I just would ask them to look at the documentation we have collected. Much of it is very contemporaneous. It's in the documentation section of our internet site, GATA.org. I don't ask people to accept any of this on faith or just because I said so. We are a public records organization. We collect official documentation from official sources and official statements from central bankers and government officials, and we lay it out for the public to look at. We try to get the attention of the mainstream financial press. It doesn't happen often. Sometimes it happens, but this is not a conspiracy theory. This is public policy that is simply not reported well in the mainstream press.
How far does this go? How aware is the average congressman or senator? Is the president aware of this, or does it just go down to the Fed and the Treasury?
I'd be very surprised if the president was not aware of it. Members of Congress, I think a few are aware of it, but throughout the government, probably most agencies of the government are not aware of it. But if you bore in at the Treasury or the Exchange Stabilization Fund or the Federal Reserve, you very quickly can pose questions that will send them running from the room.
It's interesting the central banks are willing to manipulate the gold price, but they're also buying gold. What are they willing to do? How desperate will they get to keep the power to control the fiat currency system? Are we going to see them just dump all the gold into the market just to collapse the gold price, or are they not going to go that far?
Well, there's two sets of central banks here. I mean, first are the Western central banks, which have always been very publicly involved in suppressing the gold price. In fact, prior to the collapse of the London gold pool in 1968, that was done in the open. The United States and Bank of England and Western European central banks rigged the gold price openly through the London gold pool. There was no denying it. It was admitted. But there's two groups of central banks. There's the Western central banks that are in the dollar block, and there's the Eastern central banks that are not. So the Eastern central banks appear to be buying gold at this point. The Western central banks have been distorting for a long time. They've also been supporting the suppression scheme through derivatives. I don't know exactly what they're doing at any particular moment, but the Western central banks undertook this scheme to support the dollar, particularly in their own currencies generally, and to suppress interest rates and to maintain the value of government bonds. I don't think they're going to give up those objectives voluntarily. I think things are going to change. Circumstances will change. I hope the work we're doing will hasten that change. But there's distinct groups of central banks. There's a Western bloc and an Eastern bloc, and there's more or less, as Jim Rickards, the geopolitical analyst, says, a currency war going on right now.
You've been at this for 10 years. Are you encouraged or discouraged with how close we are to breaking this gold cartel?
Well, the price has gone steadily upward since GATA's founding. Now, I'm not the rooster that thinks its crowing made the sun come up. We're going to keep crowing in the hope that maybe it can encourage the sun to come up a little faster. So I'm encouraged by the general ascent of the gold price. On the other hand, I think that general ascent has been what we call a controlled retreat in the gold market by the Western central banks. We don't want a controlled retreat. We want a rout of the Western central banks. We want free and transparent markets in the monetary metals and everything else for the sake of human liberty around the world.
The new $100 bill and the new $10 bill both have gold all over them. Gold bars, the 100 is in gold. There's some script in gold about from the Declaration of Independence. Is this a psychological thing, or are we looking at a gold-backed currency in the future?
I don't know. I know Jim Sinclair thinks that there will be at some point what he calls a gold cover clause linking the U.S. Gold reserve to the U.S. money supply as a ratio rather than as some formal convertibility. I suspect more likely will be an international currency revaluation that revalues gold substantially higher and sets a price at which participating central banks will buy and sell gold. This would allow all the participating central banks to devalue their currencies at the same time. It's the sort of thing that has happened throughout modern history anyway, that you turn on the news at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night, or you turn it on at 7 o'clock on a Monday morning to find out there's a communique from Basel, Switzerland, or Paris, or the Plaza Hotel in New York that the major central banks have gotten together, and there will be new currency arrangements, new ratios between currencies, and very possible a higher gold price that has allowed all the central banks to devalue at the same time without one getting too much of an advantage over the other. I suspect it'll turn out that way, but I don't know. They don't invite me to their meetings.
One last question. You recently added a gold confiscation section to the site. How personally concerned are you about gold being confiscated from Americans?
I don't think it makes the sense it may have made back in 1933. You know, back when President Roosevelt ordered Americans to turn in their monetary gold, we were in a financial collapse. Terrible deflation was underway. The banks had failed, and a vast amount of the monetary supply of the United States had just vanished. And gold was official money, and it was a substantial portion of the monetary base of the United States. So in a deflation, when there was a great shortage of money, there was a rationale for the United States government to try to stop what it called gold hoarding and to recall that gold and put it back into the channels of trade to get the economy going again. Now, I'm not defending that and not agreeing with it. I'm just saying there was a rationale for it back in 1933. Today, gold does not constitute a huge part of the monetary stock of the United States, or at least certainly gold in private hands does not. Most of the gold in the United States is held by the government itself, assuming that the government's telling us the truth about the gold reserve. So I don't think there's a rationale for it. Now, I think it might be more likely that the government, in its resentment of gold investors, could enact a windfall profits tax, could seize producing gold properties and things like that. But confiscation, I just don't think it would achieve very much for the government. It also would make the U.S. government ridiculous to half the world that's encouraging its population to own gold. I think it would remove the United States really from its leadership position in the world economy.
Now, if somebody wants to take the extra step, they understand the gold manipulation, they want to help. What's the best way they can help GATA?
Well, first, people can go to our internet site and they can sign up for our free daily dispatches. There's a little mechanism at the top right of our internet site where people can enroll to get our dispatches, our newsletters. The internet site is gata.org. And, of course, we're most grateful for financial contributions. We are registered as we're a Delaware corporation since January 99. We are recognized by the U.S. Internal Revenue Service as a educational and civil rights foundation, tax exempt under Section 501c3 of the U.S. Internal Revenue Code. So if you make a donation to GATA, it is federally tax exempt in the United States anyway. And you can do that through the How to Help section of our internet site, and we're very grateful for that.
Now, I love your newsletter. You guys are so fast, so I've got to ask you what your secret is. How do you get all your information? Because sometimes I'll get 4 or 5 emails from GATA, and they're happening like in real time. I mean, are you guys just do you guys have a staff that's following the news, or are you guys getting contacted by the newsmakers?
No, we don't have a staff. There's a few volunteers, and we put in some very long hours. I monitor a lot of internet sites around the world, news sites particularly. We have many friends around the world too who will alert us to developments of interest. I do the dispatches, and I catch a lot of things. I may even catch most things of interest to gold and silver investors, but I certainly don't catch all of them, and I don't dispatch all of them. We rely very heavily on friends around the world who may see things of interest, particularly things in obscure places, and alert us to them, and that helps very much too, Dan. And the less sleep you get, the closer you hang out with your computer, monitoring everything all the time, and the faster you can get these things out to the dispatch list.
I look at, there's GATA and then there's dollarclaps.com for me. I mean, if I just want to forget about sifting through all the news sites, I'll just go to GATA or I'll go to that other site, and you guys have it all. So I really appreciate everything you guys do. And of course, if anybody wants to help GATA out, go to GATA.org, subscribe, and please, if you want, donate and help beat this gold cartel, because these guys are filing lawsuits. They're actively trying to expose the fraud that's out there that's suppressing the precious metals. Chris, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for your interest as
You have a
always.
great day. Thanks.